Welcome to HD Camping Adventures. This week, we take on the iconic West Coast Trail on Vancouver Island. We'll tell you everything you need to know to plan your own trip. Alright, let's talk about the West Coast Trail. Imagine 6 or 7 days of beach hiking, rainforest ladders, and getting muddy. Really muddy. It's a rite of passage for Canadian hikers, and we're here to walk you through it. Literally. If you're thinking about hiking the West Coast Trail, this video will walk you through what to expect, from permits and preparation to what it's like on the ground. We'll take you through each section of the trail so you can plan your own adventure. Only about 70 people a day get to hike the West Coast Trail, and the season runs from May through September. Permits drop in mid-January, and they're gone fast. If you score one, you pretty much plan your whole trip around whatever start date you manage to snag. For us, planning started months in advance. One of the most helpful tools we used was the West Coast Trail app. It's free, but the paid version unlocks offline maps and GPS location services. The app lays out everything you need for your custom trip, and once we were actually on the trail, it became an invaluable resource for checking tides, weather at upcoming campsites, and what terrain to expect next. We didn't stop there. The West Coast Trail Facebook group was a goldmine of real-time info, and naturally, we binged a ton of YouTube videos from other hikers. If you're coming from outside Vancouver Island, your trip starts with a ferry ride from Vancouver, always one of our favorite parts of any adventure. This time, we decided to leave the car behind and take a shuttle straight from Vancouver to Victoria to keep things simple. After an hour and a half on the ferry, we were on the island, ready for one last night of hot showers, real beds, and all the little city luxuries we'd be missing for the next week. After dropping off our bags, we spent some time exploring Victoria and enjoying the beautiful weather before settling in for our last night in civilization. The next morning, we were up before sunrise to officially start our adventure. There were definitely some nerves about what we had gotten ourselves into. From downtown Victoria, we caught the West Coast Trail Express Shuttle to our starting point at Pachena Bay. You can start the West Coast Trail from either end, depending on which permit you get. Our hike began at the north end in Pachena Bay, finishing at Gordon River. The shuttle makes stops at both trailheads, and many hikers choose to spend the night at the trailhead to set off early the next morning. After a long and bumpy ride, we rolled into Pachena Bay, our starting point. Before you can hit the trail, Parks Canada puts you through a 1-hour orientation where they tell you all the ways the trail can kill you. Tsunamis, bears, twisted ankles, you name it. Before finally handing over your permit. You'll also get a waterproof map and tide chart, and trust us, learn how to read it before you go. There are sections of this trail that disappear completely when the tide comes in. Parks Canada runs orientations twice a day, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And thanks to the long shuttle ride, we were in the afternoon group. A lot of hikers camp at Pachena Bay after this, but we were too eager to wait. We shouldered our packs and set out for our first campsite right away. Our goal for the evening was Michigan Creek Camp, the first campsite you'll reach when starting from the north. There is a beach route to get there, but it is only passable at low tide. Partway through the hike, we were delayed by about half an hour after coming across a mother bear with 2 cubs. Definitely too close for comfort and not something we wanted to film. Once it was safe to continue, we got our very first taste of the West Coast Trail's famous ladders. If you're afraid of heights, this trail will push you out of your comfort zone fast. You'll be climbing 30 to 40 foot ladders, crossing narrow bridges, and carefully making your way along cliff edges. All part of the experience. Bears are just part of the deal out here. We counted about 15 over the course of the hike. Most were off in the distance, but a few got close enough to remind us we were definitely the visitors in their home. One of the highlights of day 1 is Sea Lion Rock, a short detour off the trail that takes you to a lookout over a sea lion colony. You'll almost certainly hear them barking long before you actually see them. Mud is basically the West Coast Trail's mascot. You'll see everything from ankle-deep puddles to knee-deep swamps. Sure, you can try to dance around it, but eventually you just have to embrace it. You're going to get muddy, so you might as well go straight through. After a long first day, we finally made it to Michigan Creek Camp at the 12-kilometer mark. It was our first beach camping experience of the trip, and we were just grateful to finally get the backpacks off and relax. Day 2 started bright and early, and we weren't the only ones. Most hikers on the West Coast Trail are up at first light. For northbound hikers, Michigan Creek is their last camp before the finish line, so you can feel the excitement as everyone packs up for their final stretch. For us, Day 2 was all about finding our rhythm. A quick breakfast, coffee, breaking down camp, filtering water, and hitting the trail. Day 2's mission: reach Tsusiat Falls, easily one of the most iconic spots on the whole trail. Most of today's hike would be along the beach, and we couldn't wait to trade the ladders and mud for sand and ocean views. Along the way, we'll point out the other campsites you'll pass. They're all marked on your map and easy to spot on the trail. Just look for the buoys hanging in the trees. Remember how we talked about tide timing back at the start? This is where it really matters. Some sections have forest bypass trails, but in a few spots, if the tide's in, you're not going anywhere. The West Coast Trail app made it super quick to check which sections were safe and exactly when we could cross. This was the moment we finally broke out the gators. We packed them for the mud, but quickly discovered they're just as good at keeping sand and pebbles out of your boots. After this, we swore we'd never hike without them again. You'll cross countless bridges, boardwalks, and ladders along the West Coast Trail. Their condition can range from freshly built and sturdy to ones that feel like you might be the last person to step on them before they fall apart. Along the way, you'll also come across old relics from the area's logging days. Walking along the beach is by far our favorite type of terrain. It's flat, it's mud-free, and the sound of the waves never gets old. But soft sand with a heavy pack is its own kind of workout. Each step sinks just enough to make you appreciate the moments when the ground firms up, when you finally hit those rocky stretches. We're coming up on our first cable car crossing of the trip. Depending on the time of year, some of these crossings can be done by foot, but for this one, the cable car is your only option. It's definitely a fun experience, but don't underestimate how much work it is to pull yourself across, especially with a loaded pack. We recommend going one person at a time so someone can help guide and pull from the shore. Our last push to camp winds through dense, mossy rainforest with little sneak previews of the ocean every so often. The trail stays mostly flat here, but don't get too comfortable. There's still plenty of mud to keep you on your toes. At last, we make our way into Tsusiat Falls Camp. After a long day on the trail, there's nothing better than claiming a spot and getting camp set up right away. With everything in place, we head straight over to take in the falls, one of the most iconic views on the trail. A swim on the West Coast Trail is basically the trail's version of a shower. Cold, quick, but so satisfying. The water here is definitely not warm, but that's never stopped Dave. Of course, standing under the falls is where Dave decides it's the perfect time to fill every single water bottle we own. It's like the most scenic water refill you'll ever see. Bonus points if you don't get completely soaked in the process. With the day's adventure behind us, it's time for the classic backcountry feast, freeze-dried dinner. Somehow, it always hits the spot out here. Once we're full, we do the nightly ritual, packing every bit of food into the bear lockers, because nothing ruins a good night's sleep like a curious raccoon or bear sniffing around your tent. And if you think getting to camp means you're done with ladders for the day, think again. Even a simple bathroom trip here involves climbing up and down ladders. It's day 3, and we wake to the peaceful sound of Tsusiat Falls in the background. Not a bad alarm clock. By now, our trail routine feels dialed in, and with a relatively easy day ahead, there's no rush. We take our time enjoying coffee, a slow breakfast, and a relaxed pack-up before heading back onto the trail. One of our goals on this trip was to stay extra organized with how we store and pack our gear. By now, everything has its place, which makes it quick and easy to find what we need when we need it. We'll be releasing a separate video all about the gear we packed for this hike, so be sure to keep an eye out for that if you want a full breakdown. Today's mission, get to Nitinaht Narrows, the 32-kilometer mark, and more importantly, to the Crab Shack. This place is famous on the West Coast Trail for serving up fresh caught crab and fish, and we've been dreaming about it since day 1. This is about as close as the West Coast Trail gets to a rest day. The hiking is mellow, and most of it is right on the beach, which has quickly become our favorite way to travel out here. Big ocean views, soft sand underfoot, it's hard to complain about a day like this. One way to save our backs on this trail is by not hauling a ton of water all day. We keep an eye on the map for streams and creeks, then just top up when we need to. This section of the trail is full of cool rock formations, but the star of the show has to be Hole in the Wall. You can only pass through when the tide's right, and we nailed the timing. Naturally, we stopped for a mini photo shoot because this spot is too good not to document.
Yeah.
Although much of the day was spent enjoying the beach, it wouldn't feel like a true day on the West Coast Trail without heading back into the forest for a while. Sure enough, the trail delivers with a good dose of mud and a few more ladders to climb. Parts of today's hike wind right along the edge of some seriously steep cliffs, the kind where one bad step could turn your West Coast Trail adventure into a rescue mission. And honestly, this would be a nightmare place to run into a bear face to face. Let's just say we kept the conversation loud and the pace steady through here. To continue the trail, you need to be ferried across Nitinaht Narrows. Before boarding, the operator will ask to see your trail permit, so keep it handy. When you arrive at the landing, all you need to do is whistle or make some noise to signal that you're there, and they'll come pick you up as soon as they're able. The Crab Shack is one of the most famous stops on the West Coast Trail, and it's something that almost every hiker looks forward to experiencing. It's not just a quick pit stop. You can actually stay here overnight. They offer cozy cabins for rent as well as a tent pad, but it's worth noting that this is a paid-only camping option. Ever since we found out about it, we knew we had to include a night here in our trip. After enjoying a hot meal and a couple of cold drinks, I take a few minutes to look over the map and plan out tomorrow's route. Once we've got our game plan figured out, it's time to grab our gear and set up the tent for the night. It's incredibly relaxing here, just sitting on the patio and soaking in the view. The Crab Shack stays open late for drinks and snacks, which makes it the perfect spot to wind down. This has been the perfect rest day for us before getting back on the trail tomorrow. We wake up to a cool foggy morning on day 4. First order of business, get the coffee brewing. Once we've warmed up and packed away camp, we're back on the trail. Today's plan takes us from Nitinaht to Bonilla Point. The morning starts in the forest, but before long we'll be back out on the beach with those incredible ocean views. This stretch of the trail takes us across countless boardwalks and small bridges. It's a peaceful section. The forest is calm, and all you hear is the sound of your footsteps on the wood as you make your way through. Campsites are where the day comes alive. Usually, a dozen or two hikers all swapping stories, but the moment you step back onto the trail, it feels like you have the whole trail to yourself. We always suggest having at least a rough itinerary and familiarizing yourself with the camps along the route. When you do meet other hikers, usually coming from the opposite direction, take a minute to chat. That's where you'll get the best info about what's ahead. Washed out boardwalks, tricky ladders, muddy sections, and even bear sightings. Since we cut our distance a little short yesterday by staying at the Crab Shack, today we're making up for it with our longest day on the trail. We've got 15.5 kilometers ahead of us, but thankfully, much of it is on the beach, which means we can make pretty good time compared to the forest sections. If you're a big fan of seagulls, you're in for a treat with this hike. We're just arriving at Cribbs Creek, another popular campsite along the trail. We decide to stop for a quick break before carrying on. Strapping our packs back on now takes teamwork and maybe a little pep talk. People always say your bag gets lighter as the days go by since you're eating through your food, but if anything, it feels like ours are getting heavier. Just when our legs were starting to complain, the trail rewards us with the ultimate morale booster, a burger shack. Yep, out here in the middle of nowhere, someone had the brilliant idea to serve burgers, coffee, and enough snacks to make you question why you ever packed dehydrated meals. It's not open every day, but lucky for us, today it is. So we go all in. Sugar, caffeine, yes, please. We had already heard from several northbound hikers that the Carmana Creek cable car was out of service, meaning we need to ford the creek on foot and that it would be waist deep. We decided it wasn't safe to attempt crossing while also trying to film. Fortunately, a fellow hiker kindly took some photos of our crossing and offered to send them over later, which was a huge bonus. Finally, we arrived at what turned out to be my favorite campsite of the entire trip, Bonilla Point. This spot is a little smaller and far less crowded since it doesn't line up with where most hikers typically stop for the night. It's a hidden gem with its own waterfall just steps away from camp, and the tent sites are nicely spread out, offering a bit more privacy than some of the busier beaches. Dave takes his second bath of the trip before something really cool happens. Out in the distance, we spotted a pod of orcas putting on an incredible show. We couldn't tell exactly how many there were or what they were doing, but it was mesmerizing to watch. Everyone on the beach stopped what they were doing and gathered to watch as the pod surfaced and played for nearly half an hour. It was one of those rare moments that made Bonilla Point feel truly special. Once the orcas left and the beach emptied, we switched back into hiker mode, hanging up the clothes we'd been hauling around damp for the last 2 days and firing up dinner. There's something pretty great about cooking with a waterfall at your back and the ocean in front of you. As we sat there eating, it hit us. Somehow we're already finishing day 4. Time on the trail moves weird. Slow when you're climbing ladders, but way too fast when you're sitting on a beach like this. Day 5. Time to face the beast. The southern section of the trail has a bit of a reputation for being tougher, muddier, and generally more of a grind than the north. So we do the smart thing. Eat like royalty and drink enough coffee to power us through every ladder we're about to climb. If breakfast could win medals, this one would. Today's going to hurt, but in a good way. We also make a point to drop some electrolyte tablets into our water bottles. Filtering water makes it safe to drink, but it doesn't always take away that odd taste you sometimes get from creeks or ponds. These tablets taste great and give us energy. For breakfast, we keep it simple. Noodles. They're our solution to the expensive freeze-dried meal that can really add up over a long trip. It may not be your typical breakfast, but noodles are cheap, quick to cook, and surprisingly satisfying. Plus, after a few days on the trail, they taste even better. And just like that, we were back on the trail. Our goal today was to push a little farther than we had originally planned. Every northbound hiker we passed reminded us that the last 2 days of the trail are notoriously tough, so covering extra distance today would make those final stretches a bit more manageable. It's a smart move that allows us to pace ourselves and enjoy the southern section without feeling rushed at the end. Our next stop is Walbran Creek. The cable car is here if you need it, but with the water low, we wade across by foot. Walbran is a gorgeous beach campsite, but it's well known for its mice. We'd already met hikers with chewed bags and tents, a good reminder to keep all of your attractants locked up. Leaving Walbran Creek marks the end of our beach hiking. Owen Point is in the southern half, but it's only passable at very low tide, and the timing never lined up for us. While we're a bit disappointed to miss it, it just gives us the perfect excuse to come back and hike the trail again. The next big highlight is the Logan Creek Suspension Bridge, one of the newer additions to the trail. If you still haven't shaken your fear of heights, this is the time to face it. The bridge sways high above the canyon. For us, it was another unforgettable moment that made this section memorable. Right after the bridge comes one of the toughest workouts of the entire trail, the longest series of ladders you'll face. Heading down, there are 174 rungs, each spaced about a foot apart. After crossing the creek by foot or cable car, it's straight back up 218 rungs. Going down always feels a bit more intimidating, but the climb up is a serious leg burner. This is where you realize the southern section has a wicked sense of humor. On the map, the distances look easy. In reality, a single kilometer can take an hour. You spend so much time climbing ladders and scrambling up and down that it feels like you're barely moving at all. We're happy to make it into Camper Bay early in the day. It's another beautiful spot to spend the night, though honestly, they've all been incredible. We take advantage of the sunshine while it lasts, and Dave even manages to squeeze in his third bath of the trip. He's officially the cleanest hiker on the West Coast Trail. As the evening sets in, we cook dinner and take some time to relax. Tomorrow will bring another challenging section, so we enjoy the calm while we can and get ready for the next push of the trail. Morning of day 6. Fog everywhere, coffee in hand, noodles on the go. Around us, hikers are up at dawn racing to finish the trail today. But not us. We're in no rush. One more night out here sounds just right before we say goodbye to the trail. Camper to Thrasher doesn't mess around. With Owen Point off limits thanks to the tide, it's back into the forest for us, and the forest is ready to put us to work. First up, more ladders, because of course. Then it's a balancing act across fallen logs, some of which are way higher than they look on camera. Pro tip, take it slow. Those things get slick and make for a quick trip down if you're not careful. Time to drop into Thrasher Cove, literally. This last kilometer is nothing but steep switchbacks and a ladder marathon all the way to the beach. Getting down is sweaty work, but the whole time we're laughing and crying a little, thinking about how we have to climb back up tomorrow. Thrasher Cove might just win the award for most stunning campsite of the trip. It's cozy and usually pretty busy, since it's the first stop for northbound hikers and the last hurrah for southbound ones like us. From the beach, we can actually spot Port Renfrew, which feels wild after days of nothing but wilderness. Civilization is officially back on the horizon. Our last night on the beach feels bittersweet. Part of us can't believe the trip is almost over. It's hard to say goodbye to nights like this, but at the same time, we're looking forward to a real shower and sleeping in a proper bed again. Day 7 starts early. Everyone is up before sunrise. If you've read about the West Coast Trail, you've probably heard the stories about Thrasher Cove's infamous climb. To make things more interesting, you're also racing the clock to catch the last ferry off the trail at 3:30. It's only 6 kilometers to the finish, but this section can take the average hiker 4 to 6 hours to complete. At this point, you know the drill. Mud, ladders, creeks, bridges, rinse and repeat. Somewhere along the way, you hit the highest point on the whole trail, marked by an old rusty barrel. The final ladder is no joke, nearly 40 feet of vertical descent. It's a fittingly exciting way to finish the trail. At the bottom, we raise the buoy to signal the ferry operator that we're ready to cross and officially end our hike. No question about it, this was one of the best adventures of our lives. We'd do it all over again tomorrow. Well, maybe after a few good nights of sleep. If you're thinking about hiking the West Coast Trail, we say go for it. You won't regret it. Got questions? Drop them in the comments. Make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next adventure. Make sure to check out with Parks Canada before making your way to the pub. Thanks for watching.